The snow was falling in thick, heavy flakes when the CEO, Adrian Cole, stepped out of his office tower long past midnight, exhausted from a day filled with negotiations and deadlines. He didn't expect anyone to be waiting outside, especially not a tiny girl in a thin pink jacket, shivering, clutching a worn-out backpack against her chest. When she looked up at him with eyes full of fear and a courage too heavy for her age, he felt something crack inside him. "Sir," she whispered, her voice trembling more from desperation than from cold, "my mom, she didn't come home last night." Adrian froze, confused at first. He wasn't used to anyone approaching him like this, let alone a child. She looked no older than 7, her cheeks flushed red from the freezing night. "What do you mean she didn't come home?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The girl swallowed hard, her breath fogging the air. "She works in your building, cleaning the offices. She always comes home, always. But last night she didn't." Her voice wavered. "I waited, and she never came." Something cold and sharp slid down Adrian's spine. This wasn't a child seeking attention. This was real fear. He knelt so he could see her properly. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Lila," she said. Her fingers were shaking so badly she nearly dropped her backpack. "Mom said workers can't talk to bosses. But I didn't know what else to do. You're the only person I could find." Adrian felt the weight of her words settling on him like the snow around them. He opened his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders without thinking. "Let's start from the beginning," he said softly. "Where do you live? Did you call anyone?" Lila shook her head, tears gathering in her lashes. "We don't have anyone. Just me and Mom." She pulled out a crumpled security badge, the one her mother used to swipe into the building. It was still warm from Lila's hands. "She left yesterday at 5 p.m. She should have returned before midnight." Adrian tightened his jaw. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. "Come with me," he said firmly. He guided her toward his car, shielding her from the wind as best he could. She walked beside him, small and fragile, but with a determination he admired. Once inside the warmth of the vehicle, she clutched his coat tighter, finally able to breathe. "Why would your mom not come home?" he asked. Lila stared at her hands. She said she was scared. Not of work, but of a man on her shift. She didn't tell me more. Just held me extra long before she left. Adrian's grip tightened on the steering wheel. He knew every department of his company, at least he thought he did. "Did she tell you the man's name?" he asked. Lila shook her head again. "No, she said she didn't want me to worry." Adrian exhaled slowly. "We're going back to the building. We'll find the logs. We'll check the cameras. We won't stop until we find her." For the first time, Lila's eyes filled with a flicker of hope. The corporate skyscraper looked even colder at night, its glass walls reflecting the harsh white snow. Adrian carried Lila inside, where only a single security guard remained. "Sir," the guard stammered. "You're back." Adrian didn't answer. "Pull up last night's employee exit logs," he ordered. Lila stood beside him silently, gripping the hem of his coat as though it could anchor her shaking world. The logs flashed onto the screen. Names, times, access points. Adrian scanned quickly. Maria Wells, he read aloud, Lila's mother. She had entered the building at 5:12 p.m. But there was no exit recorded. None. Lila gasped softly. "That's wrong," she whispered. "Mom always leaves at night." Adrian felt something twist painfully in his chest. "Check the cameras," he said, sharper than he intended. Footage. Loaded. His own floor first. The cleaners moved quietly, pushing carts, vacuuming empty hallways. Then, at 10:52 p.m., Lila's mother appeared. She looked tense, glancing over her shoulder. A tall man approached her, someone Adrian didn't recognize. His posture was aggressive, blocking her path. Maria backed away nervously. The footage ended abruptly. "Where's the rest?" Adrian demanded. It's missing," the guard said, swallowing. That segment was corrupted. Adrian's heart pounded. Missing footage. Impossible. Not at his company. Not with the level of surveillance he paid for. "Who accessed the system?" he asked. The guard hesitated. "Only managers have clearance to delete or override camera feeds." Lila tugged at Adrian's coat. "That's the man," she whispered. "The one Mom said scared her." Adrian looked down at her trembling small hand. He couldn't fail her mother. Or her. "Come with me," Adrian said again, this time with a steel edge to his voice. He took Lila to the elevator. They descended to the service floors, cold, dim, and echoing. "Why here?" she asked, voice barely audible. "Because this is where staff leave their belongings. If your mother didn't exit the building, she might still be here, or something she left behind might tell us where she went." Lila clung closer to him as they entered the empty locker room. Rows of metal lockers lined the walls, some dented, some rusted. He found Maria's, locked, but her keys weren't on the security badge Lila carried. Adrian took a deep breath and forced the locker open. Inside was a small lunchbox, untouched. A coat she would never leave without. And a folded note taped next to a picture of Lila. The note read, "If anything happens to me, it's because of him. Keep Lila safe." Lila covered her mouth, her breath shaking. She knew, she whispered. She knew something was going to happen. Adrian gently took the note, careful not to tear it. "We're going to find her," he promised, his voice low and fierce. "I swear it." He wasn't just saying it. He meant it. Somehow, in the matter of minutes, this girl had become someone he needed to protect. As they left the locker room, a loud echo bounced down the hallway, a door slamming somewhere in the dark. Lila tensed. "Someone's here," she whispered, her small fingers gripping his sleeve tighter. Adrian scanned the corridor. A shadow moved near the far exit. "Stay behind me," he said. He stepped forward cautiously, but the figure disappeared before they reached the end of the hall. Outside, the snow had thickened. Adrian held Lila close as they walked toward the loading docks. "Why would the cameras go out?" he murmured. "Why tonight of all nights?" Lila stared at the ground. "Mom said people don't see cleaners. They think we're invisible." Adrian winced at the truth in that statement. He had never paid attention to the late shift staff. But now everything felt personal. He scanned the snow near the docks. Footprints. A woman's, slightly dragging on one side. And next to them, boot prints, deep and heavy. "These are fresh," he said. He followed the trail as Lila clung to his hand. The prints led to the alley behind the building, a place where the wind howled through metal crates and dumpsters. Something metallic glinted under the snow. Adrian bent to pick it up. A keychain, with Maria's initials engraved. Lila's voice cracked. "That's hers." She pressed it to her chest. Adrian clenched his jaw. Whoever had taken her mother didn't even bother hiding the evidence. They wanted her to disappear quietly. Not on his watch. Not with her child standing in the cold waiting for a miracle. "Let's keep going," he said. "We're close." They walked deeper into the alley. The snow muffled everything except Lila's small breaths and the crunch of their footsteps. "Why are you helping us?" she suddenly asked. Adrian looked down. "Because no child should wait alone for a mother who doesn't return. And because this happened in my building. That makes it my responsibility." Lila nodded, trusting him fully now. At the end of the alley, another clue waited. Maria's work glove caught on a fence. Adrian pulled it free, his stomach tightening. Beyond the fence was an abandoned delivery yard. "Someone took her through here," he murmured. Lila leaned into him, afraid but determined. "Please, I need her," she whispered. Adrian placed a protective hand on her shoulder. "We'll get her back." They scaled the fence, Adrian lifting Lila safely over. The wind howled around them, almost drowning out distant sounds, voices. Male voices. "Stay quiet," he whispered. They crept forward until they saw an old warehouse, dim light spilling from a cracked window. Inside, two men argued. One of them, the tall man from the footage. The other held a phone. "We can't keep her here forever," the tall one growled. "If the company finds out." Adrian felt rage rise in him. They had her. They had taken a hard-working mother from her child. Lila pressed her face into his coat, trembling. "Is she inside?" she whispered. He listened closely. A muffled cry echoed from within. "Yes," he said, breath sharp. "She's in there." Adrian pulled out his phone. He could call security, police, anyone. But time was running out. He sent a single message to his head of security. "Warehouse B, bring backup now." Then he turned to Lila. "Stay hidden. No matter what." She nodded bravely. "Bring her back," she whispered. Adrian squeezed her hand once, then moved toward the warehouse, heart pounding harder than any business deal ever had. He pushed the door open slowly. The men inside spun around. "What the, Cole?" the tall man snarled. Adrian stepped inside, unafraid. "You took one of my employees," he said, voice cold enough to freeze the room. "Where is she?" The tall man smirked. "You should have ignored the cleaners, CEO. They're nobodies." Adrian's eyes darkened. "Not to me, not anymore." A scuffle erupted. Adrian didn't fight often, but adrenaline fueled him. He shoved the tall man aside, grabbing the other by the collar. "Where is she?" he shouted. A door creaked behind the crates. Adrian ran toward it. He found Maria tied to a chair, bruised but conscious. Her eyes widened. "Lila," she cried. "Is she safe?" Adrian nodded. "She is. And you're coming with me." Backup stormed the warehouse moments later, securing the men who had taken her. Adrian freed Maria carefully. She could barely stand, but relief washed over her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my daughter." Adrian shook his head. "She saved you. She never gave up." Tears flowed freely down Maria's cheeks. Outside, Lila ran through the snow the moment she saw her mother. "Mom!" she screamed. Maria dropped to her knees, hugging her fiercely despite the pain. Adrian stood back, watching the reunion with a tightness in his chest he didn't fully understand. Lila looked back at him, eyes shining. "You found her," she said softly. "You're our hero." Adrian knelt to meet her eye level. "No," he said gently. "You were brave enough to ask for help. That makes you the hero." Lila wrapped her arms around his neck. He held her carefully, overwhelmed by the unexpected bond that formed on a snowy night that could have ended in tragedy. As the police took statements and medics checked Maria, Adrian stood under the falling snow, watching mother and daughter cling to each other like life itself. He knew his world had changed forever. Wealth, power, status, none of it compared to what he saw in Lila's eyes. Sometimes a single child's desperate courage could melt the coldest winter night, and sometimes it could melt the coldest heart.